Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Deborah.
My name is Obi.
So for today's video, we'll be talking about our tips for resolving fights, arguments, disagreements, all of that stuff in relationship as well as friendships. So we know that in every relationship you have, there will definitely be disagreements and quarrels between you and whoever the other person is. So we're just talking about what you can do in order to get through that stage as quickly and as easily as possible.
So for me personally, when the both of us fight, it usually gets emotional, tiring sometimes, but then we're always able to come out of it by embracing each other, hugging each other. We'll talk more about all that later. We don't usually fight about big things, and I think that's what most relationships are like. It's more like, oh, I don't like the way you woke up this morning. Why are you making so much noise? Like that kind of thing.
So what do you think is like the very first thing to do?
I think in the beginning, me and you are usually heated. You guys might be really heated in the moment, and so sometimes it's a good thing to take some time apart and just think over what your emotions are, know what's going on with you.
Yeah, and I think it's good because sometimes you don't even know why you're really upset. You need to get to the bottom of it so you can communicate it to your partner.
Yeah, because you're just upset and you're like, it's like you're just angry.
Yeah.
So you might just need to take some time, just cool off.
Yeah. And then after you've cooled off, you can then go constructively to say how you feel to your partner.
Yeah, and you need to prepare that before you go and meet your partner so that you don't get there and before you know it, it's all...
And this is also a good time to remember that you have to not be afraid to be vulnerable, say how you really feel, but make it more about how you feel, not like, oh, why did you do, you did this to me, you did this to me. If you go and say, I feel this way, or I was hurt by this, the person is more able to empathize with you.
Yeah, I agree. Because for me, for her to really understand how I'm feeling and to get emotional and empathize, because of you want to be able to empathize with how your partner is feeling in the moment. Because she's also angry and I understand that. Then I have to say it in a way that it's a human level. So I feel like you weren't caring about me in this situation. I feel like you were talking to me like I was a child. It takes a bit of vulnerability. Why are you laughing?
Is that a genuine feeling that you felt?
Yeah, sometimes. For reals, yeah. Sometimes, like, people want to feel like an adult. Sometimes you want to feel like respected. You know how we treat children, like they're children. So if you feel like you're being treated like a child, and I'm like, hey, I felt like you were treating me like a child. It's not fair for you to treat me like a child. Then you now start to understand, like, yeah, I don't want you to feel like a child. Maybe you now apologize, and you now start to understand the person. So after your partner has come to talk to you about their feelings, you have to recognize that they're trying to be vulnerable with you. They are just laying down their emotions for you, and so it's important for you to just keep your ears open, listen. You want your partner to feel heard, even though you're feeling you're angry, but then you're trying to be constructive about things now.
Yeah.
You talk, I talk, you talk. No more talking over each other. It's just listening. Yeah,
and listening without getting defensive. So that's not the time when your partner is saying, you talk to me like a child. That's not the time for you to now say, yeah, what about when you spoke to me like a child? Which is something we used to do before, and then you used to do it, and then I'll be like, yes, even though I spoke to you like a child in the past, we're talking about you speaking to me like a child now. So let's talk about that and then bring up yours, or bring up yours while it's happening. Don't like now be like, oh, you did this to me, well, you did this to me, and then it's like, well, it's now another fight. It's like you're getting defensive and it now becomes something else.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you now, even up till today, but it's just important to just listen to that person in the moment, and first of all, lead with empathy. Lead with not being defensive, like she's saying, like, oh, you did this to me in the past. Lead with, I understand how you feel, it sucks. Then maybe after you can now bring up, it also sucks for me when you do it too, and it's not like you're bringing that up to one of the other person. You're bringing it up to empathize. It's just like empathy is so important, especially when that person is being vulnerable with you. You don't want to step on their feelings. That's just the worst.
While all of this is going on, while your partner is talking to you and you're listening, you also have to remember, both of you, that you're both on the same side. When you put that in mind, it makes it less likely for you to be thinking like, oh, it's me against you, and you're more able to come together and see that it's not both of you against each other, but both of you against the issue that you're being faced with, and then you can work together and see how you can resolve whatever is going on.
That's true. Like, a little psychology part of this is that your issues and your fights are not necessarily about you. They're about your fears, your insecurities, your pain, your emotions, all that kind of thing, and that's not necessarily your partner partner is bringing that up. Like when she talks to me like a child, I'm sure like there are other people who don't even care. It's like they just don't take it the same way. Most of the time she doesn't really say those things with that intention, but then I take it that way because of maybe my mother has talked to me that way. And so it's important for you to know that yes, you are tackling that issue of your whole childhood, all these layers, your insecurities, all these little things. That's what you're going up against, and it's hard to recognize that in the moment. Now that if you just have that in the back of your mind, that you just know that, then it will make things easier for you. Okay, for this one, I think it's a very big one. I think it's the reason why I'm able to forgive every single time, and it's because of I trust that Deborah is a good person, and I trust that my parents are good people, and they don't want to hurt me.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah, I don't I don't I'm sorry, I don't want it to be like you're saying I'm a good person. Okay, for me, I don't look at it as you're a good person. Not to say I don't think you're a good person, but more importantly that you're not out to get me, you're not against me.
Sure.
Do you understand?
I think.
Yeah, so you look at it like that, but for me, my own perspective is I know you're not trying to hurt me in any situation.
I genuinely believe that in general, Deborah never wants anybody to feel bad. She never wants anybody to get the intention that she's trying to get them to feel bad. So I'm confident in how she feels about these kinds of things. And so when she's doing it to me, I'm confident that Deborah actually is a good person. So I don't even worry about that.
Okay, yeah.
You can't say the same for me.
No,
it's fine.
Not that. It's not just my thought process.
Yeah. It's fine.
So, as much as you might do all of these things to get on the same page or to resolve the issue, you also have to know that it's not really always possible that both of you will end a disagreement on the same side, like having the same opinion.
Yeah.
You will sometimes have different opinions and you might have to just accept it, unless it's something that is of great consequence. But for little things, you might just have to accept that, yeah, we're just not going to agree on that. And what do you call it? Agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're agreeing that you both disagree. And she didn't like that at first. But I think it's really powerful because of, well, depending on the situation, like she said, it's hard for me to think of an example. Can you?
If you both don't want to have children.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
that's a big
how do
one.
you disagree to disagree?
Yeah, that's a big one. Usually, when you agree to disagree, you just have to make a compromise. You just have to compromise. Somebody has to give. And so when somebody gives, then you guys can continue to build on the relationship. I know that that's something you just have to always compromise at. You don't want to keep going backwards, right?
Yeah, and I, like I said, especially if it's something that is not such a big deal. Like, if it's something that will always be bothering you, then maybe, I don't know. Unless you can do it, I guess. Yeah,
because unless it's only philosophical things that you agree to disagree, and you just can't get over it. Like, there's no compromise in that. You can't really compromise your values.
Yeah, we have this thing that has been going on between both of us for months, where he thinks that looting is just like
for the BLM and for riots in general, and just to convey your view on something.
And me, I believe that I wish he didn't have to get to looting, but if that's what we have to do to gain our rights, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I'm completely against it. So that's something that, like, I really try for her to see my view and like, no, that's wrong.
And then he questions whether I'm a good person. He's like, do you really?
Yeah, are you really destroying people's businesses and calling it good? But I also understand where she's coming from, and I'm able to hear it. There's no real compromise that can happen there. But then it's just something are you going to be with this person or not? Like, you have to make it to say, like, you just have to move on and take the bad with the good. I'm kidding.
And something we've noticed is that even after you've gone through all of this, it might make sense to you. Like maybe you've spoken to me in a way that made me feel like in a condescending way, and I'm like, the way you spoke to me was condescending, and I didn't mean to talk to you like that. And I believe him. But there's just something in your heart that just is like, you're still angry.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is what makes forgiveness a decision.
Yeah. It's
not just about how you feel. You have to decide to let it go. And so in those situations, it's like, yeah, I believe him, I trust him and all of that, but your feelings don't just switch like that. You can't just switch from being angry to, at least I can't. So I now have to make the decision and say, yes, I actually forgive you, and then we move on from there. So you have to be willing to forgive, and over and over and over and over again. Maybe not for the same things, because maybe that will be a problem, but it will happen.
I kind of got lost in what you were saying. But oh gosh. for me, it goes back to knowing her intentions. And like, even though I'm still angry at her, I really realized that it's not about the fight in this moment. It's about our childhood. Everything usually goes back to childhood, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the way it might be, and you just try and let go of whatever angst you were holding towards all that kind of stuff, because of you realize that if your relationship has to go on, you have to let these things go. And you love that person. For me personally, the best way is to hug it out, is to share a kiss, is to do a gesture, because of I used to think, what's the point of kissing? It's just putting two lips together. But then it's a gesture of how you feel. It's a gesture for human beings to show what to connect. Yeah, like there's no better way I should have said that, but to connect. And so if you're just able to do something like that or create something, I know there are some people in some relationships, like they kiss on the head, kiss on, like, or some people, they carry arrow from the back and they pull it out, imaginary arrows, and pull it out. Yeah,
that's smart.
Yeah, so there are different creative ways that you can create for your friendships that make you feel connected and really make you feel like you're on that same level. It might not be kissing, might not be hugging. So I think you guys should maybe think about that. That might help you let go that little bit last amount of angst.
And this very final point is one that is very important to me. I feel like you should never skip it. It's always talking about what you would do when you are faced in similar situations, because if you don't do that, you find yourself in that spot again, and it will just take place all over again, to repeat itself. So it's very important to say, okay, so what should I have done differently? What can you do differently? And just walk through all of that, so that you might have more problems, but you're less likely to have issues with the same thing. Yeah,
and like when you now fall into that same trap, you fall into that same problem. She sometimes reminds me, you promised me, or you already told me that this is not going to happen. I'm like, I'm sorry, and like, because it will probably happen again. Like, we're not perfect people. So when it happens again, you're like, I'm sorry, I promised you I'll try my best again. And that's just what it's about. It's trying your best every time, forgiving and she has to also forgive me that time again. So this is like a continuing process, and then you're still getting better at it, guys. Yes. So you guys will good luck.
Good luck, yeah. But that's all we have for now. Let us know if you liked this video and what other type of stuff you want to see, and we'll be happy to do that. Yeah. Remember to please pause this video this second and like it.
I think I wore the blue because it matches the like button, so please like.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.